its 7 seals. Now we're going to take and kind of chew this up a little bit. Okay. The Lion of the tribe of Judah. What does that mean to you? Go to Genesis 49. You got your Bibles. Let's go. What's that? Somewhere in the Old Testament. Genesis 49. Here we go. Jacob's last words to his 12 sons. Look in verse 8. Judah. This is, your brothers shall praise you, your hands shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's son shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as a lioness, who dares rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to whom shall be the obedience of the peoples. Here, Jacob is blessing his son, but in doing so, prophesying about another one who will come in the tribe of Judah, which would be who? Jesus. Okay? Let me ask you this. How many of you have ever encountered a lion? I mean, I assume they just don't roam around in Florida, but gone to the zoo and saw one or whatever. I can tell you, how many of you have ever seen the movie The Ghost in the Darkness? Y'all know what I'm talking about? The Ghost in the Darkness is a true story. Val Kilmer plays the engineer. It took place in Africa back around the turn of the century. Val Kilmer plays an engineer who went to Africa to construct a bridge in this particular part of Africa. And in the process, there were a pair of lions who began hunting humans. And I don't remember the exact number, 25, 30, 40, 50 humans they killed before they themselves were killed. I saw them, I watched the movie and I saw those lions in the movie. And of course, I'm watching it as a movie, not thinking much about it. Until I happened to be in Chicago and went to the Museum of Natural History. And in the Museum of Natural History in Chicago, both of those lions are stuffed. You can actually go see them. And let me just tell you, I'm walking down through there and looking at all the stuff, and all of a sudden I see Ghost in the Darkness, and I'm thinking, hey, I saw that movie. And I look up, and right in front of me, stuffed behind glass, were these 2 lions. And the hair immediately went up on the back of my neck. And I'm like, they've been dead for 100 years, and they still scared me. Right? When he uses the lion from the tribe of Judah, what imagery is he trying to convey to the people about the one they serve? You see a lion out in the savannah. What image comes to your mind? What thoughts come to your mind about that? Fear? What else? Strength? Power? Sure. Have to. Oh, come on. Y'all have seen the Lion King. I know you haven't seen the Ghost. Let's go to the Lion King analogy now, right? Okay. What else? You can use your Disney stuff here. Okay. What? King of the jungle, king of everything. I mean, think about it. In the pecking order of nature, what's above the lion? Probably apex predator. I mean, he's on top. Okay, and so we get this imagery from John. We see the lion. We see the one. Judah was compared to a lion. No one goes into a den and grabs a lion by the beard to wake him up. Right? You go past the lion's den and he's got prey in there, and you hear that low guttural growl. You just don't go walking in there and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Right? Okay? The prophet Amos said this in Amos 3:4. Does a lion roar in the thicket when he has no prey? Does he growl in his den when he has caught nothing? The same image is portrayed in other Old Testament passages. I think I put them on your outline. Numbers 24, Psalm 7, Micah 5. Judah is always seen as the lion. He is the one who is victorious, and he brings fear into the hearts of the people. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is the one to whom the obedience of the nations belongs. Don't forget, that was the prophecy that Jacob gave to Judah. The nation's obedience belongs to you. Now, when he uses this analogy of the one I saw was the Lion of the tribe of Judah, guess what other nation owes him obedience? In this context, what nation is it important for them to understand will be obedient to the Lion? Who? Well, Israel, but more specifically, Rome. You see, Rome will be obedient to Jesus Christ. Now, when I say obedient, I don't mean, we use that word, did they obey the gospel? Were they obedient to the gospel? That's kind of our choice to submit. But there's also the side of God that says, you know what? Even if you don't want to obey, God will make you. Does anybody have any doubt that on that day when we all get to heaven, that every knee is going to bow before him, whether we want to or not? Now, I think his own will gladly fall at his face, but there are going to be many who don't know him, and I can guarantee you they will be on their knees. Their obedience will be to him. Yeah, good point. Okay, so he calls him the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He's also called the Root of David. Now, this is important because there's kind of a distinction throughout the New Testament. Jesus is often referred to in the lineage of David because he is in the lineage of David. Okay, but when he says the Root of David, here he's not talking about the fact that Jesus came from the line of David. He's talking about that David came from him. Okay. If the root is Jesus, he's saying David grew out of that. So he's elevating the preeminence of Christ even beyond one of their most historical and prominent kings, which would have been David. And Israel at its pinnacle, at its height. And he's saying, you know what? This Lion, the tribe of Judah, the root of David, the one who caused David to spring up, this is the one you serve. Matthew chapter 22. If you've got your Bibles, turn over there. We see this when Jesus is questioned. Starting in verse 41. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, "What do you think about the Christ?" I think it's funny that Jesus is asking the question, "What do you think about the Christ?" when he is the Christ? So basically, without saying it, he's saying, "So what do you think about me?" Okay, be done. "Whose son is he?" And they said to him, "The son of David." He said to them, "How is it then that David, in the Spirit, calls him Lord, saying, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet'? If then David calls him Lord, how is he his son?" And no one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions. Pretty smart. They were pretty smart guys. Okay? So they come and they say, he says, whose son is the Messiah going to be? And throughout their entire history, they knew it was coming through the line of David. And their answer right off the bat is, well, it's David's. Well, David calls the Messiah Lord. How can y'all figure that out for me? That's basically what he's asking the Pharisees. Why would David call his son his Lord if he didn't exist beforehand? Understand the preeminence of Christ. In the picture, remember, this is all in the picture. What does John see? I know what we read, but what does John see so far? After we leave the throne room, what does he see? God's got the seal. He's got the scroll with the 7 seals. The elder says, "Wait, don't cry anymore. Look." And John looks and he sees who? The lion. He sees the lion from the tribe of Judah. That's the imagery that he wants you to get. Okay? But he's not done there. He's not done there. He says this. Let me get back over there. The root of David. has conquered. Between the throne room and the four living creatures and among the elders, I saw, now what? A lamb. He sees a lion, and now he sees a lamb standing as though it had been slain, with 7 horns and with 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. Okay, let's talk about the lamb for a minute. He sees the lion, then he sees a lamb. I don't know how this happened. Okay, I wasn't there. I don't know if the lion turned into a lamb. I don't know if there was a lion and then a lamb came in. I don't know. We don't know. He sees a lion, then he sees a lamb. In my mind, the lion fades out, the lamb comes in. Okay? Because they are one in the same. Okay? The lion is the lamb is the lion. All right? But what does the lamb look like? Looks like it's been killed. Okay? And something that looks like it's been killed would be what? Especially a lamb. What would it look like? What? Bloody. Yeah. Bloody. In other words, there's enough physical evidence from what John sees of this lamb that it looks like it had been killed or slaughtered. Okay? The word that John uses for lamb is unique only to John. Okay? He uses it in Revelation. He also uses it in his gospel. And every time he uses this word lamb, it doesn't just mean lamb. It always means a slaughtered lamb, one who has been prepared for sacrifice. Okay? Within the book of Revelation, there are other references to his lamb, to a lamb. God's wrath is the wrath of the lamb. We'll get to this. People are cleansed by the blood of what? We sing the song. The church is the bride of the lamb. That's all in Revelation 6:16, 7:14, 19, 7:21, 9. I think it's on your thing. The slaughtered lamb is a picture to them of Jesus where? On the cross, right. On the cross. So we have this picture of this slaughtered lamb. We have this picture of this lamb who has been slain, so to speak. But he didn't just see a slaughtered lamb. He also saw what? The lamb was not dead. It looked as if it had been slaughtered, but it was definitely alive. Okay? Important to remember. You can go back and look at these if you want. John 20, 25, and 27. This is that case when John appears to them and Thomas doesn't believe, and Jesus says what? Put your hands in my side. Put your hands in. You can see the evidence of my slaughter. You can see the evidence that I had been offered as a sacrifice, but now I am very much alive. Okay? But what's also interesting to note is the position. Again, this is visual. Where is the lamb? Where? Yeah, he gives us a marker. What's that? No, look at verse. He's right in the middle. If we go back, he's like right in between the spirits and the 4 living creatures. He's right in front of the throne, right in the middle up there. Okay? Which is a beautiful picture when you think about it of God the Father, God the Spirit, God the Son, all right there together. Okay? Another thing probably that gave hope and courage to, he's not in that picture. I'm just giving you a picture of where he appears. Mine says, what? Between the throne and the 4 living creatures and among the elders, which would have been on either side, boom, right in the middle. That's where he's at, center stage. Okay? But also that kind of gives you the idea that this is an accepted lamb. He has been perfected to the point where his place of preeminence or his place of dwelling is in the very center of the throne room of God. I can't imagine that just anybody walks into that spot. Okay? Paul. And we'll see that. Again, I don't want to When you know the complete story, okay, it's very easy to interject what we know about Jesus into Revelation, okay? But what we have to do is also pull ourselves out of it and see it as those people in the first century heard it, okay? You're exactly right. I can make an analogy of him being the go-between or whatever. In this scene, his purpose is not necessarily the go-between. His purpose, as we will see, is to be the one who is worthy to take the scroll from the right hand of God himself. That's going to be his purpose in this scene. We'll see later on in the book of Revelation where he's exactly what you're talking about. But right now, we focus in on what he's doing, and his presence is there, and we see him as lion, we see him as lamb, we see him accepted by God, we see his power. How's he described? This is a weird-looking lamb. Right? I heard it. Down by the sea. Janet. That's my daughter's favorite Disney movie, by the way. So anyway, weird-looking lamb, right? How many horns does he have? Good. You got enough fingers? You want to use mine? 7 horns. Horn is a symbol of what? Seven is a symbol of perfect. A horn is a symbol of what? Power. Power. Hey, for all you deer hunters out there, who wins the fight? You see 2 bucks come together in the rut? Who usually wins the fight? One with the biggest rack. Okay? Unless they're old, and then in that case it's the young one. But you still get the idea. The bigger the rack, the more powerful the animal. Okay? That's why people don't go out and shoot deer with little bitty horns, because they want the big one. Right? Unless you're like me and you just want to eat it, it don't matter. 7, perfect power. Okay? So this lamb is, although it's a lamb, it's powerful, just like the lion. Okay? He's got 7 eyes. What do eyes do? See. Also symbolic of what? What? Perfectly seen. Perfect wisdom, the ability to see all, to know all. Okay? What is the passage? I think I wrote it on there. Yeah. 2 Chronicles 16:9, the Lord ranges the earth looking for his faithful. You can go look that one up. The idea that he sees. And now, this is also important. If you're under bondage and you're under persecution and you're fearful of your life because you're being devoted to the Lamb, what do you want to know? That he sees you. That he sees you. That you haven't escaped his attention. Okay? It's important. It's important that they be seen. And it's important that they, the 7 churches, see the one who sees them, which is Jesus. Okay? Then look at verse 7. What happens? He takes the scroll. Let's read it. And he went, he, the Lamb, the Lion, Jesus, he went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who was seated on the throne, God. And when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures, the 24 elders, fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and a golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. They see Jesus as the Lamb. They see him as the Lion. They see him take the scroll. This is kind of an interesting play, too, when you think about it. Is there any hesitation on the part of the one who sits on the throne to hand over the future or the destiny of mankind to the Lamb? None. Why? Because their wills are perfectly synced. What God the Father wants, God the Son wants. They work together. Thoughts, questions before I go further? Okay. You see them working in concert here. Now, it's important to remember this scene and burn it into your head because the rest of Revelation emanates from this point. Okay? You've heard of the seven seals, and you've heard of, they open this seal and this seal. Well, they're going to open those seals right here. And you're going to hear about the horsemen that come, and the one on it looks like death, and they're going to come from here. Judgment, the opening of the seals, emanate from the very throne room of God. He is in control. And Jesus is executing His will and His authority on earth on behalf of the Father together. Okay? And the response is important. Starting in verse 8, let's just read this. I think I want to read, let's just go down through 10. And when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song, saying, "Worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God, from every tribe and language and people and nation, and you have made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they shall reign on earth." What's their attitude? What's their attitude? When they see Him take these seals, how do they feel about it? What's their natural response? Worship. When they recognize the authority of Jesus to carry out the will of the Father, their natural response is worship. And who do they worship? They worship the Lamb. Worthy are you, the one who has taken the scroll. Okay? That's important. They fall down. We see reverence. We see praise. We see dependence. We see the bowls of incense, representative of the prayers of the saints that are all right there. That's a cool thing. I could spend a whole lot of time just talking about that. Where are the prayers of the saints in this picture? They're in the throne room of God. Think about that for a minute. The next time you sit down and pray to God, remember where your prayer ends up. In the very throne room of God, in His presence. Okay? They call Him worthy in verse 9 and 10, but it's important to note why these elders have deemed Him to be worthy. What has the Lamb done? What has the Lion done other than take the scroll? What do they recount in their new song about this Lamb, this Lion? What is it that they know about Him that John can relate to? He was slain. Now we're not talking about a symbolic lamb. We're talking about Jesus Christ on the cross. He died. Matter of fact, they even reference it. His death did what for us? Redeemed or ransomed us. He ransomed people for God. And then He takes it a step further and He says, understand this. We mentioned Israel before. But understand, John has been transported into a place where Israel is a byproduct of a plan that's now been totally fulfilled. Israel's not in the picture anymore, so to speak. As a matter of fact, these elders in this new song, they say, this lamb, this lion, this root of David, Jesus, has ransomed people from where? Everywhere. Okay? As a matter of fact, He leaves nothing out. Every tribe, we're talking ethnicities, every language, we're talking now cultural groups, every people, nation, 4 different ways of looking at mankind. And He says, Jesus has ransomed them all for God. He paid the price for them all. Okay? Now it gets cool. If that wasn't cool enough. Okay? I get chill bumps every time I think about this. This next little passage. Now we're focused in, right? If this is a movie and you're watching it full screen, this scene, or we'll go back. This is what you see, right? right here, and our focus is here. But then above the elders in this picture, you kind of, maybe from back there it's kind of hard to see. You see all little heads? Okay? And you could go through and count them. They're probably angels. You can look at the picture on my computer if you want. It's really good on here. If you want to come down here and look at it. Okay? Listen to what he says. Then I looked, and I heard around the throne and the living creatures and the elders the voice of many angels. Listen to this. Numbering myriads of myriads and thousands of thousands. Let me ask you this. How much is a myriad? What's that? Yeah, it kind of depends on when you look at the etymology of the word and when it was first used. But yeah, that's a good call. Say 10,000. Okay? But if you say a myriad of myriads, what are you saying? 10,000 10,000s. How much is that? I was terrible at math. I was good at English, but I couldn't. You math people, I don't know what, 100 million, give or take. Give or take, 100 million. Okay? How many of you thought the singing was good in here Sunday? I did. I thought it was really cool. I think we had 165 in here. Can you imagine what 100 million sounds like? I mean, think about that. Think about that. And I know this is imagery, and I know it's symbolic. And don't get me wrong, I don't think here he's giving us a head count of heaven. Okay? That's not what John's purpose is here. Or I don't think it's what Jesus' purpose is in giving us this vision. But what's he telling us about the angels in heaven? There's a bunch of them. There is a bunch of them. And they're all singing together. Okay? And listen to the song. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. And then they're joined in verse 13. And I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the sea and in the sea and all that is in them saying. Think about that just for a minute. Who all's talking here? Huh? Creation's talking. I got every creature in mind, okay? But yeah, creation, anything with a mouth, even the prophecy of Jesus. Remember, if you're not going to praise me, even the rocks will cry out. But yeah, you get the picture. Even the goldfish here are singing. Okay? I mean, it's pretty cool when you think about it. But it's symbolic. It's imagery. It's to prove a point. It's to illustrate a thought. And that thought is, what you need to understand is, when Caesar comes rolling into Rome and he's got his people out there lining up on the streets to give him platitudes because he's in control, he's Caesar, and they know, well, if we don't fall down and praise him, we could die. Well, that's Caesar. Now, let me tell you about the king you serve, okay? In addition to the 100 millions of angels that are at his beck and call and command, all of creation, man, woman, child, fish, bear, you name it, are going to sing this song about him. And what they say is, to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. Now we're going to combine them. The one who sits on the throne is who? God. And to the Lamb, he combines them together. Be blessing and honor and glory and might forever and ever. And the four living creatures said, Amen. And the elders fell down and worshiped. So we get this beautiful picture in this throne room of God. Now Jesus comes into it to receive the future of what will become the revelation from Jesus to these seven churches. Okay? But John is setting this. I keep saying John because John wrote it, but this revelation is coming from Jesus through John. And what Jesus is wanting them to understand is, no matter what you think, no matter what you see, no matter what you perceive to be in control or in power, there is someone way, way greater who's in control. And always will be. And these 7 churches needed to know that. We need to know that. We need to know that. We need to know that God is still on the throne. We need to know that the Spirit of God is still in the center of the throne and that the Lamb is still there and He still holds the future of His saints in His hand, and He always will. No one's going to take Him off that throne. And that as we unlock these 7 seals, we're going to see what transpires. Historically, yes, but we're also going to see what transpires, I think, spiritually in the battle between not only Rome and the church in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th century, but we're also going to see the battle that's transpiring between God and Satan himself. And in the end, when we get to the end, guess what we find out? We win. We win. We win. All right. Next week, we're going to start opening seals. And this thing's gonna go. Okay? So hang on. Read ahead if you want to. Just again, try in your head as you read it, don't get so caught up in the words. Try to, in your mind, envision what John is trying to describe, the picture that he's trying to show. And then what does that picture mean to you? Okay? I know for many people it's been a crazy week. Who am I saying? It's been a crazy year. And there's no signs that it's going to get any less crazier by the time we get into 2021. I hope it does. I hope it does. But you know, the reality of what we see, the reality of what we know from this book as it applies to us today is it can get a whole lot crazier. It can get a whole lot worse. But guess what? We win. We win. It may not be pleasant. It may be difficult. We may lose freedoms. We may gain freedoms. We don't know what's going to happen. What's the old song? I don't care. Yeah, that's it. I don't know who holds tomorrow. Or, no, that's not it. Help me out. I'm getting too many words. I don't have to know, the gist is I don't have to know what's going to happen tomorrow if I know who holds tomorrow in his hand, right? That's it. All right? That's where we got to be. That's where we got to be. We don't have to know what's going to happen so long as we know the one that does. And really that's all we're called to do is follow the one that in the end wins and will win and will always win until we're all reunited with Him in heaven one day, which is what we all want. But in the meantime, we take as many people as we can with us. Because I'll tell you, that's a message that'll transpose to people everywhere. Let me ask you this. How many of you in grade school, I'm going back to when we actually got to go outside and do things like for recess during school, like we'd run in and we would eat as fast as we could, and then it was out on the playground because we were going to play football for 30 minutes before we had to go back in, right? Y'all do the same thing? Okay. And back in my day, 2 guys would get out there first, and they were the what? Captains. And the captains then, everybody else would line up. And then the captains would go to picking teams. And everybody knew what captain would win because he always won. And you always wanted to be on his team, right? I mean, if the guy that never won was the captain, you did everything you could. If it was his pick, you'd step behind somebody else and kind of put your head down because please don't see me, please don't see me, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me. Herb, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Right? And then as soon as the good captain got ready to pick, that's when you'd step out and go, I'm here. I'm here. Because you wanted to be on a winning team. I don't know of anybody that went out and goes, man, I hope I get picked by a loser today. Right? But the reality is that lion and that lamb came to this earth and crawled up on a cross and said, I pick you to be on my team. But you got to pick him too. He's done everything he can to get you on his team, but you have to go play the game. Tonight, if you're not in a relationship with Jesus, you're not on a winning team. I hate to say it, but you're not. We're going to sing a song, and if you'd like to put him on in baptism tonight, commit your life to following him. We'd be glad to do that. But if you need prayers, if you need encouragement, if you need anything, we're family, and we want to do what we can to help. Just let us know as we stand, as we sing. Come on, Ty.